I'm going to do the experiment shown in question 2.2 at home. But before I do that, let's read question 2.2 together. So 2.2, the learners perform an experiment to separate a mixture of sand and sugar. The experiment is done in 3 steps, as shown in the diagrams below. So we have step 1, step 2, and step 3. So let us look at step 1, because you are provided with diagrams explaining what the learners do. So initially you have a beaker. It's like a glass that you use in a lab to mix chemicals in, a fancy version of a glass. Inside that glass or inside that beaker is a liquid. So we know it's a liquid because they are pointing, and the arrow there is pointing to that liquid, and in brackets you can see the letter L. The chemical formula, this is the chemical formula for water. It means that in that beaker it is water. But we also see that they are adding sand and sugar into the water that is in the beaker. And now this glass rod is just so that they can stir. So after they add the sand and the sugar, they're going to continue to stir to try to mix this sand, sugar, and water together and create some sort of a solution. And that is step 1. So let's try to do this in real at home using your normal household items. So for this experiment, we need 5 items, or at least for step 1. A glass, because I don't know how many people have beakers at home. A stick, I don't have a glass rod. Water, liquid water, not ice or steam. Sand that you can just get from the outside, and sugar. Just don't finish your parents or sugar. So like I said, we have a glass, right? And then a stick. I'm going to use this stick to stir the mixture. And then we have water. This is my water. And then we also have sand. So this is the sand from the outside. And then last we have sugar. I don't have white sugar, so I'm going to use just a teaspoon of sugar, not a lot. So we are going to try to do this experiment at home using these 5 items. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to pour this water into my glass. I don't need a lot, so it's not even half of in here. Okay, and then what did they say they did next? After that, we're going to add sand. So here's my sand. I'm going to add it into the water. Right, there we are. And then I'm going to add my sugar as well in there. So now we've added that, and then I'm going to use the stick to mix the whole thing. So in the experiment, they're saying it is a glass rod, but I don't have a glass rod to stir with. So as I'm stirring, it's just to make sure that at least the sugar dissolves. You should probably have an idea that the sand is not really going to dissolve in the water, but sugar actually dissolves in water. So this is going to require a little bit of stirring, and we're going to stir up until we say we're comfortable that all the sugar has now completely dissolved in the water. So I think at this point, if we check, we can agree that probably all the sugar has dissolved, and at the bottom you just left with the sand. So you now have this solution, this sugar solution with sand in it. So we've completed step 1. Let's now go back to step 2. In step 2, we now have a couple of things to make note of. So the first thing is this, that thing that looks like a V. What do you think that is? That is something called a filter paper. A filter paper. And then below it, we have something that looks like a Y. That is just a funnel. So that thing that looks like a Y, the filter paper looks like a V. Inside this filter paper, we are told there's a solid there. There's a solid, we don't know the name of it, it's just called X. And from the funnel, you can see that there's something, drops of some liquid going into another beaker. So there's a liquid that is dropping from the funnel into the second beaker. And in there, they're saying it's a mixture of something. A mixture is a combination of 2 or more things. We're not told what it is specifically. So they just denote it with the letter Y. So let's try to do this now together again. So for step 2, I said that they have a filter paper. I don't have a filter paper at home, but I made myself a paper. So this will be like a filter paper. I just took a page from a book, drew a circle, and then cut it up into a circle. Right? You need something like this, a paper that is circular, right? So there's our paper, and then we need the second thing is a funnel. So this is a funnel. When I was growing up, we used to pour paraffin into the paraffin stove using a funnel. So that's the second thing that you need. And then you need a second class. So get another class at home. There's my class. I'm gonna put it there. And then the last thing is that a mixture of yours from you, that solution of yours from step 1, that where you have water, you have sand, and you have sugar. The sugar has completely dissolved into the water, but at the bottom, I don't know if you can see, we still have that sand. So those are the 4 things that you need to proceed with this step. So what do they do? So the first thing I want you to do is to take your second class. Inside this class, put on a funnel, right? And then I'm going to show you how to properly make this in a sort of a filter paper. So we're just going to do this to it, fold it in half across its diameter, right? And then fold it again like this. So we're making that V-shaped. So essentially you're just going to be left with a cone, sort of a cone like this, like those birthday hats that people do. And then you take this, it's not perfect of course, and then you put it inside, in the inside of your funnel, right? So there you are. Then we're going to take the mixture that we have, that solution with your sand and sugar, or a sugar solution with sand in it, right? And I'm just going to pour it over my filter paper and just observe what happens, right? Let's hope this works. So you do that. So you need to do this quite slowly. That's not good. So after you do that step, you start seeing that the sugar in water, or the sugar solution, is starting to drip into my second class from the funnel. So I have here, as you can see, that sand water, or water and sugar solution, and I've used the filter paper to separate the two. And there you are. You see it is starting to drip. Those are the drops that you saw drawn in your sketch. So what does this mean? Here at the top, when this whole process is done, we're only going to be left with that solid, and that solid will just be the sand. And at the bottom of this, or in my second class, I will have the sugar solution, the mixture Y. So the solid sand, which is solid X, will be left in here. And then in my class, I will have a mixture Y, which is just water and sugar. It's not a perfect one, but I think we've done our best. So we are now on the last step, which is step 3. We have a mixture Y, which we said it is your sugar and water. And then we have an arrow that is facing up, indicating that the water H2O is coming out of mixture Y, and is coming out in its gaseous form. That's why in brackets or parentheses we have G. It means it's steam. So why would steam come out of this mixture Y? That can only happen if this mixture Y is being heated. Maybe on a hot plate, you're heating it up until it boils, and then water comes out of that mixture as a gas, as steam. So in this process, the last step, the learners are actually trying to separate the water from the sugar. So in the end, they just want to be left with the sugar, because all of the water would have come out, or would have evaporated out of the mixture. I'm not going to do this part. I think it's a bit clear. Plus our mixture is still filtering. So like I mentioned, it's going to take a bit of a while until all of the water has now gotten into the second class, as I demonstrated. So we can just, I think at this point, we are in a position to answer all of the questions related to this whole setup that we did our best to try to mimic or whatever. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's answer the questions. So let us try to answer the following questions. Question 2.2.1. Write down the name of A, the process illustrated in step 2, and that is just a mark. So what process is this that is illustrated in this step? So in this step, we have the mixture of sand, sugar, and water being filtered through the use of a filter paper and a funnel. So what is the process of that step? That step is actually called filtration. Filtration. So if you write filtration, you can just remember it by that we used a filter paper to filtrate. So if you write filtration, you will get a mark. B, the process illustrated in step 3. So what is this process here in step 3, where we see water sort of escaping from mixture Y as a gas? I said it's almost like heating up mixture Y on a hot plate, and the gas or the steam is escaping out. What process is that? That process is actually referred to as evaporation. So the liquid, the gaseous, the steam, evaporation. The steam or the gas, the water gas is escaping from the mixture. So that is, it is evaporating out of mixture Y. C, what is solid X? So what is this solid here? What did I say the solid X is when we are separating the sugar solution from the sand? What is that solid? It is sand. So in our filter paper, at the end of that process that I demonstrated, you will only be left with sand in the filter paper, and at the bottom of your glass or your glass beaker, you would have the mixture Y. And now, of course, they're asking us, what is mixture Y? I said that mixture Y is sugar plus water. And we saw this ourselves. It's sugar plus water because the sugar would have dissolved in the water, right? So if you write sugar plus water or a sugar solution, you would get a mark. The last question is 2.2.2 in step 3. So in this step, or is step 3 this step a chemical or a physical process? And you must provide a reason for your answer. So we didn't create any new substances. The only change that happened is that the water changed from a liquid here to a gas. So it's changed its phase, but that is not a chemical process. That is actually a physical process. And we didn't create any new substances. We still had sugar and water. So this is actually in fact a physical change or a physical process. Because why? No new substances were formed during that process. The only thing that occurred was a change in the phase of water from liquid to gas. And if you write that, you get a mark and a mark for your explanation. So thank you so much for watching. Tell me what you think.